Welcome to TechFlick. In this video, I'm gonna go through my experience on my first PC build. So, shall we? Let's go! So I do not have any issue with the motherboard. I took it out from the anti-static bag, placed it on top of the motherboard cover, and peel off any necessary plastics. So now that the board is ready, next is the processor itself. It is fairly easy to do. I just push the lever down and away from the socket and lift the cover up. I align the small rectangle at the corner of the processor with the ones on the socket, and I basically just drop the processor in. Give it a bit of a wiggle to make sure it is in, and I close the lever. It needs a bit of strength, but overall, no issue. Installing the RAM is also quite straightforward. I just push open the both clips and I align and slot the RAMs in. I was actually quite nervous putting too much pressure pushing the RAMs down, but I realized that I have to push it down with a bit of force to ensure that the RAMs are slotted correctly. And yeah, the RAMs is now installed. Now, for the I/O shield, I just push the shield in on the four corners. I made sure that the four corners are clicked in nicely, and it's done. Next, before putting the motherboard into the case, I went to strip the case apart. For this case, it was easy to remove the right, left, front and top panel off. I then lay the case down for installing the motherboard. Now, this is the part where I have difficulty in, and that is installing the motherboard. The standoffs for the case is already pre-installed. However, the issue here is aligning the I/O ports on the motherboard to the I/O shield. I felt really frustrated as the motherboard just won't align properly. I had to keep taking it in and out for like 5 times. What I did was to push the pins on the I/O shield slightly up so that the ports can fit in the I/O shield correctly. It was such a relief that the motherboard can finally be fitted correctly, and now that it is fitted correctly, it was easy to screw the motherboard into the standoffs. So far so good. I was so confident that I decided to mount the radiator at the top of the case. I screwed it in with confidence, and we will get back to why this is a bad idea. For the backplate for the AIO cooler, I had set up the backplate to fit the LGA 1151 socket. So from the back, I just had to push the backplate into the 4 holes and it fit nicely. I then squeezed a pea-sized shaped thermal paste in the middle of the processor and started to install the AIO cooler pump. I just slot the AIO cooler pump into the 4 screws from the backplate and screw them into place. Tightening the 4 screws was easy to do, and I tightened it just enough to make sure that the AIO cooler pump is in place. With a fully modular power supply, I had to figure out what are the necessary cables to install. With the help of the labeling, it was easy to figure out, and in this case, it was the motherboard 24-pin, the CPU 8-pin, a PCIe, and a SATA cable. I then slotted the power supply with the wires in first into the power supply shroud. I made sure all the wires are tucked in nicely and screw the power supply in. Next, I installed my SSD and hard drive onto the brackets provided. The NZXT H440 does provide the 3.5-inch and the 2.5-inch brackets for easy installation into the drive cages. These brackets are easy to mount. I just place the drives onto the respective mount and screw it in. Now, onto the top radiator issue. At this point, I just realized I do not have any intake fans. All my fans are exhausting air and I do not have any other fans. So, upon sudden realization, I had to unscrew the radiator from the top mount and also to the 2 fans on the radiator itself. This was when I decided to position the radiator to the front panel has intake fans, and I'm left with one fan at the rear as exhaust. It was really time consuming and bad planning on my part. Well, at least it is a learning point that I can take away from this. On to the hard drive and SSD. Putting the hard drive in the drive cages and securing it was easy to do. For the SSD, I did not want to place it at the back of the case as I'm not sure how much it would affect the thermals on the SSD. So, I positioned it on the slot on top of the power supply shroud. Time for the next hardest thing, connecting the cables to the motherboard. I was really overwhelmed, so I decided to split them into two categories, the cables coming out from the case and the cables from the power supply. I did the cables coming out from the case first, that is connecting the USB 3.0 cable to the motherboard, the two SATA cable, one for hard drive, one for SSD, connecting the fan splitter and onto the fan header. The AIO pump cable to the pump header, USB 2.0 cable to the motherboard, HD audio cable to the motherboard. Now, this is the part where it gets annoying. Connecting the power LED, power switch, reset switch, HDD LED. These are so slim and tiny, but luckily the ASUS motherboard does come with an easy tool. So I connect all of these onto this handy tool before connecting it onto the motherboard. Next was the SATA cable to the hard drive and also to the SSD. Moving on to the power supply cable, I connect the CPU 8-pin to the motherboard, the 24-pin to the motherboard, the SATA power cable to the hard drive, the SATA power cable to the AIO pump, and finally the SATA power cable to the SSD. Last but not least, it is time to slot in the graphic card. I had to unscrew and remove the two brackets for the graphic card to slot in. Slotting the graphic card is really easy and is similar to slotting in the RAM. I then screw the graphic card onto the bracket. Once done, I connect the PCIe power cable to the graphic card. Cable management is another area I find it tedious but worth the time. My cable management here was meh, but I feel it's okay for a first time build. I did use the zip tie points on the case and also made use of the Velcro zip ties. Overall, I think it looks okay. My only concern at this point was if the side panel can be closed properly. So, without further ado, let's start the PC. And yes, it does boot. The most heartbreaking 10 seconds of my life when I saw that black screen. The moment I thumbs up, it started to go black again for quite some time. But yes, it did manage to boot into BIOS. So that's it guys for this video. If you like this video, please do click the like button. If you love it, click subscribe and leave a comment down below. I hope you guys like this video. It's just a summary of my first experience building a PC. So the learning point is planning before building is important so you don't waste time and effort. If this video did help you in any way, I would like to hear how it helped. And how did your first build go? Please do share your experience and leave a comment down below. I have more videos on the way, so please stay tuned guys. This is TechFlick, signing out.